So let's talk about England 25, Australia 7. On balance, England were the better team, although it wasn't super slick. You'd say they deserved the win. Australia, a bit disappointing to be honest. In the first half, both sides actually struggled to convert, so Australia could have come back and had a bit of a lead, but England definitely overpowered them in the second half. A much better bench made a big difference, and I'll do a full player rating of England in my next video, so look out for that. Anyway, welcome to this analysis supported by my starting lineup. Get stuck into that game to predict England's next starting lineup. We'll get into that next week. Straight from the off, we see the kick battle in this first half. Fawa some good pressure on the chase, but Stewart drops the return kick, and Stewart dropped a stack in this first half. Australia, very conservative on the attack, but that's how they do it these days. They build slowly under Joe Schmidt and then they open up, but certainly to start with, not particularly exciting. In that first 5 minutes, we see a really good counter-ruck from England, who really attacked the ruck very nicely. Underhill doing some good damage, Australia slow getting back, and England win the ball back. Ford pings a really nice crossfield kick to Fawa, and it could well be a first try, but to me it looks like Kellaway just sticks his hand up and bats it out, but he gets away with that. But England have more chances. They hit flat lines, Freeman smashing away. Again, like Australia, not particularly inventive, and it doesn't really go anywhere. So just crying out for a bit more ingenuity in that red zone, but England definitely on top a little bit. On 9 minutes, we see a good jackal from Ben Earl, creating another good line-out launch opportunity, but again, hard Australian defence repels it, so England just not quite managing to click yet. But I think you would say England are on top. On 10 minutes, both sides, like I said, pretty basic in attack, but pretty decent in defence. The big downside for England at the moment, though, is Stewart, as he drops his second high ball to give Australia another good position. But one more safe attack, and Edmed forces an over-the-top pass, and Roebuck intercepts, and that comes to nothing. Could have come to more, actually, for England, but Dingwall botches a clearance kick, and Dingwall not his greatest first half either. And then Stewart loses his third and fourth straight aerial battle. So England, yes, they're slightly on top, but they can't quite capitalise. Freeman, though, is worked into space on 16 minutes, but Ben Earl just overruns the next carry, and again, England have a good chance to score there, but that final execution is lacking. But we do get a good counter-attack from Fawa, really good stuff. No, beats a couple of men, and it looks like there might be an overlap for a second, but he doesn't really look, has the ball under one arm, which is something he needs to work on. Incredibly dangerous, but needs to spot that 2-on-1, needs to have the ball in two hands. On 20 minutes, another bit of class from Mitchell, who puts in the high kick. Great chase from Roebuck, who wins the ball in the air from Sawalihi, so that's quality stuff from Roebuck. And he shows awareness to offload to Underhill. That's the awareness of Fawa who didn't have. And Underhill shows awareness as well to know that he doesn't have the pace, so he gives it to Earl, who burns under the post from 30 metres to score. So really good try there. 10-0, probably England worth it. Then we see a couple of good chances for Australia. They get a bouncing ball, a little lucky potentially. Pepper doesn't release, and they get some chances to maul over. But twice in a row, England show really good maul defence. A couple of really good counter drives, turns the ball over, and that was impressive from England. Yeah, and their defensive pressure has been excellent, to be fair, for England. I like how they're not over-rushing in defence, but still being very aggressive. Australia, when they do work it wide, is a bit telegraphed, and Fawa again up nice and quick to swamp the attack. Wilson drops a couple of balls as well for Australia, so that definitely helps. On the half hour, a massive moment as England look to turn the screw a bit. The scrum wheels, which gives them a brilliant opportunity actually to break up the left as the Australian back row is out of it. They work the ball to Freeman, they get up in the 22, Earl streams onto the ball really nicely, but goodness me, magic work from Harry Potter, holds him up, amazing stuff. But England are pressing for that try. Then Potter again takes a nice high ball mark to save another. And a third piece of brilliance as England look to finish a momentum attack as they stream onto the ball. It looks like England are going to go 15 or 17 points up, but Dingwall long pass and Potter intercepts and goes the length. So nightmare stuff from Dingwall, and he, along with Stewart, having poor halves really. Stewart had a forward pass that actually wasn't given, but then doesn't give a 2-on-1 to Pepper, who's in acres of space. So a couple of players just letting England down a bit in that first half, and in the flash it is 10-7. So Australia realise they're back in this game. They could have been 15, 17 points down, but they're 3 points down, and the momentum definitely shifts back to them, but McWright can't hold a clever Edmed chip, and they could have been away there, as Australia have a decent attack, pulling the ball back deep, but then Potter offloads to Roebuck, and he nearly gets in on a kick through, but then Edmed just has to kick the ball out, but kicks straight to Baxter, who can't capitalise, so just a crazy end there. So it's 10-7, and Australia right back in this when England could have taken that game away a bit. Now in the second half, it started off with 2 more ropey lineouts from England and Jamie George, who had a pretty disappointing game, to be honest. Australia, though, continue with their slow attack. They're not really running onto the ball, they're lying quite deep, so I'm not quite sure if this safe thing is working for them, as it gives England a good target to counter-ruck, and they were very good at counter-rucking. You'd probably say Australia slightly better at the jackling with Fraser McWright, who's one of the best in the world, but England definitely getting plenty of shots on Australia in defence in that ruck. Just like the first half, England have another good launch into the 22, but Baxter goes to ground a bit early. Otoje misses his clear out, and McWright jackals it, so conversion in the 22 really poor in this game. England had a chance early on. Then the first big break of the second half, and it is a nice tip-on pass from Alan Alalatoa to Valentini, but definitely Joe Hayes getting his numbering all wrong in defence, lets him clean through, but England a bit of a let-off there as Harry Potter goes off his feet as Australia were threatening. So again, Australia very poor at converting as well. And we can see those 6 British and Irish Lions chomping at the bit at the sideline there, ready to come on, and they do make a difference, as a lot of them come on 51 minutes. We have the whole front row, Tom Curry and Henry Pollock, and that's the impact that England need. And very interesting, with the introduction of Cowan-Dickie, the line-out really goes a lot better. 51 minutes, really good launch, get on the front foot, good momentum, but they can't convert again though, which is a problem in this game of course. But a couple of minutes later, same again, good throw from Cowan-Dickie. England's maul in this second half was really good. They squeezed a penalty from Australia. Another line out on the 22, Freeman, Pollock, really nice carries, but Tom Curry throws a wild pass into touch. Really frustrating as more and more good opportunities don't get finished off. In the scrum, it was pretty much honours even, which lets Australia clear quite nicely. A monster punt from Edmed, that was a really good one to get away from a bit of pressure, but England are living in the Australia half at least. Stewart in the second half, slightly better under the high ball, wins a couple back. Roebuck, who's been absolutely ruling the airways, gets a nice tap back on the chase, and they're off. The blonde locks of Henry Pollock sticks out a hand, it sticks in his hand, and he scoots around just about, there was a tap tackle, but he scoots around the last man to get the try, so good pace from Pollock. Valentini looks a bit slow to cover Pollock as well on the replay, but that's the breakthrough that England needed, 15-7. And in this second half, England are winning all those high ball battles, McWright keeping them in the game with another jackal. God, he's good. Stewart can see that Potter has the ball and does something really silly. He just smashes him in the tackle when he doesn't have the ball, so I don't know what he's doing there. Maybe he shut his eyes from 5 metres out or something, but Stewart, not a great game for him, I don't think. Gives Australia a cheap penalty. And Australia try and open up their attack with some complex passing, but like I said, they're so deep, England can see what they're doing and push them all the way back into their own half, so Australia won't be happy with their attack. Pollock again, another good chance a few minutes later. Stewart makes a bit of a slow motion counter-attack just about around a front rower. Pollock is isolated though, and England cannot carry on that attack. And from this point on, England are pretty dominant. They turn the screw. Cowan-Dickie's throwing in the line-out's really good. They get a couple of good mauls. Australia actually managed to turn one over when Cowan-Dickie loses it going for the line, but Paisami crawls on the ground when they're trying to clear it and gives England another maul chance. And this time they score. It's Mitchell with a really sharp break, blind, lovely footwork to beat Edmed to put the game to bed finally there, 20 points to 7. Neither Ford nor Finn Smith later in this game can kick a conversion for their lives, to be honest, so it's just 20 points to 7. Edmed a few minutes later dawdles at the back and Tom Curry just melts him. Dangundu panics and kicks the ball straight out, and it looks like Australia now are cooked as England maul from 25 metres out all the way over. That was really dispiriting for Australia. Brilliant maul by England. 25-7, of course, not the conversion. Australia actually finished the game on the attack, but it's a pretty poor attack to start with as the replacement fly half Stewart just slices a penalty nowhere. Lonergan off a line-out passes to no one, but they get another chance. They defend on the line, do England, get a yellow card for a lot of penalties from Pollock, but they do hold up the ball, so at least they don't concede. Not that it really would have mattered too much anyway. So 25 points to 7. That's how the game went. England worth their victory for sure. They're going to need to be better, I think, against Argentina and of course against New Zealand, but that's how you want to start, with a win, with some momentum. We'll get into the players with those player ratings in my next video. Anyway guys, do subscribe, do like if you haven't already, that would be great, and I'll catch you next time.